Well, good evening and welcome to the 5 Point Podcast. It's been a little while since I posted another video. Just been really busy lately, trying to get through school, summer school, which is finally uh, coming to an end here in the next couple months, which is good, which is nice. Feels good on my hand. Um, I wanted to get around to this. I wanted to make time for this particular episode. I think the majority of my actual 5 Point Podcast episodes in the past have been responses to discussions or arguments I've gotten in on Facebook or people have gotten in with me, depending on how you look at it, depending on which side you take. But the world is falling apart. The world is absolutely a mess, and it does not take somebody who knows a whole lot about politics or economics or even knows a whole lot of background in world events or anything like that to be able to see that the world is falling apart. That there are things happening in the world that are scary, that make you uneasy and that make a lot of people ask questions. And one thing that has been circling around lately is this whole exposing of the culture's acceptance and promotion of sexualizing children, pedophilia, and making it normal. And a lot of people would argue that that's not what's happening, that the culture in the world is still against pedophilia. And I would say, well, I think a lot of people are, absolutely, but I think that the groups, especially in film, are pushing to make sexualizing children normal. And the reason I say that is, I mean, you see the whole Epstein stuff that goes around, the different actors whose names have been released. Now, none of that, not going to make assumptions here, but if all of that is true, if any of that is true, then we have an issue. We have a lot going on. We have a lot of problems that are going to be needing to be dealt with. But on top of it, social media doesn't help either. And I'll talk about this a little bit once we get into it, but social media, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all that, promotes and encourages the sexualization of children. And you can't get around it. But yesterday, I saw something on Twitter that just disgusted me. Netflix has a new movie coming out called Cuties. It's a French film. It's described as a French teen coming of age film, and it's crossing lines and it's causing some issues, as it should. And there have been several petitions to get it to not come, and I think today I just saw that it was forced to have a mature rating on Netflix once it is released, and that doesn't make it better. That doesn't make it okay just because you say, hey, this might have mature content. If it's focused around children, it shouldn't be a mature content. It shouldn't be rated mature if it's focused around children and teens coming of age. But here's the synopsis that I read. This is the official synopsis. 11-year-old Amy starts to rebel against her conservative family's traditions when she becomes fascinated with a free-spirited dance group. Now that doesn't sound too bad. But the American synopsis, then this is the original one I saw, said this. Amy, 11, becomes fascinated with a twerking dance crew. Hoping to join them, she starts to explore her femininity, defying her family's traditions. The picture The poster that went along with the second description, the American description, featured 4 girls, all around the age of 11, in different suggestive poses, including twerking and all that, wearing incredibly revealing outfits. The comments on the post were just as disgusting, and it just furthers the narrative of this being normalized. But people were saying that I love how this movie is teaching young women how to embrace their bodies, sexuality, and individuality. And everyone hating on this movie just needs to calm down. It's just dancing. Well, no, it's not just dancing. That's not what this movie is. This is not just dancing. This is grooming. This is grooming children. And it's grooming the culture to accept child sexualization. Um, and this is about as low as one can get in the realm of depravity. To take children and place them in situations that they don't understand, to dress them down in outfits that show off their bodies, and make them move in ways that are sensual and provocative. Children are becoming more and more of a target of stuff like this, thanks to social media and this new sexual revelation that is going on. Everything flows downhill. It starts with something that seems harmless and simple, like making hooking up a normal and acceptable thing in culture seems harmless, especially today. But when this happens, a door has been opened, and that door cannot be shut, at least easily. And the further you get down this hill, the more unlikely it is to reverse anything that comes from it. And I'll get into that more in a moment. But I want to take some time to better respond to this Facebook interaction I had. And it happens to be about this movie, Cuties. There have been petitions started, like I said, to get this movie taken off of Netflix before it even comes out. And that's right, and that's how it should be. But I posted a picture of a screenshot of a person who was talking to Netflix customer service. Now, I know this person at Netflix is not the CEO or president or anybody in charge, whatever. But the question that was asked, how does a movie sexualizing children get approved? Who signed off on this? To which the representative replied, "We understand that not all stories may appeal to our viewers, which is why we always invest in a diverse range of content from all over the world. We also provide ratings, synopsis, trailers, and controls to help our members make the right viewing choice for themselves and their families." It's a nice response, professional response. For all consideration, this person had probably no idea that this movie was coming to Netflix and what it was about. He just works, he's just customer service. However, their response was where it all blew up. The person then asked, "Do you support pedophilia? A simple yes or no will suffice," to which the Netflix representative responded, "We cannot really comment on that, but while we believe in creative freedom at Netflix, we respect all religions and their cultures, traditions, and values." A question about pedophilia, and it gets narrowed down to creative freedoms. I understand this person was probably just responding with how they were trained to do so, but that is where it concerns me. That a person cannot speak on behalf of a company by saying, "No, we do not support the exploitation of children." The answer given brings it down to creative freedoms. And that's how so much of this gets by today. It's just art. It's just expression. It's creative freedom. And that's exactly the argumentation that this person and I had a dialogue with on Facebook brought it down to. This person, I'm not going to use his name. I hardly ever do in these videos, but I haven't taken the post down, so do with that what you will. But he responded to my post, and he said, "It's a stupid, loaded question. They're not talking to the director or anyone involved in the film." Now, I get that. I do. I said that. But the concern is that this person could not even say that Netflix, the company that they work for, doesn't support it, doesn't support pedophilia. He couldn't even say that. One of the most evil sins should a representation of a company should be able to say without fear of disciplinary action that pedophilia is evil and wrong. But then again, much of what is evil today is applauded and lifted up. We live in a country that celebrates the slaughter of over 2,000 babies in the womb every single day. He continues, "The movie does not support pedophilia. It's literally a critique of the hypersexualization of young girls in modern culture, especially in dance. This gets brought up a few more times, but you do not critique hypersexualization of children. Let's just call them what they are. They are children. They are young girls, but a young girl is also somebody in her 20s, like, when compared to a 50, 60, 70-year-old. These are children. You do not critique the sexualization, not just the sexualization. Children should never, ever be sexualized at all. Notice the language he is using, the hypersexualization of children. Children shouldn't be sexualized. That's a no-brainer. That's not something that should happen. But you do not critique the sexualization of children by placing them in a movie that puts them in revealing outfits and has them twerk and perform other sexualized dances. That defeats the purpose and takes away any credibility. I'm going to fight child pornography by showing you pictures and videos of child pornography. That makes no sense. That defeats the purpose. You can't argue that way. You don't need to see child pornography to know how disgusting and perverted it is. You don't need to see things like this in order to know that they're wrong. You can defend this all you want. It doesn't change the fact that they're putting these children in the exact position that they claim they are trying to fight. Moving on. He then tells me to look at the original French poster in comparison to the American one. He says, marketing got screwed up, the message of the movie got lost in translation, and that's why the poster had been dropped. And Netflix apologized for it. Don't cry wolf until you've had a good look. Because that makes it all better, doesn't it? They apologize, so move on. That's how these people argue, because they have no legitimate argumentation to make. They say things like this in order to try and move on the conversation, not even have an argument at all. And to them, it's enough. Until someone wrongs them or offends them, then apologizing isn't going to work. They don't accept apologies either. Sure, marketing might have messed up. Maybe this wasn't the original poster. Maybe it wasn't the original synopsis. Marketing might have messed up. I did read that, and I read Netflix's apology. It wasn't much of an apology to begin with, but all of that doesn't matter. The benefit of this marketing mess up is that it shows people like myself who would never be interested in watching a movie like this what is really being pushed, what is really happening in these kind of movies. If this didn't happen, this movie would come out, and the majority of people who would watch it are people that would not have a problem with this kind of behavior, such as this man that I'm having this dialogue with. And that's the scariest part of all. No, this revealed what I'm sure is more common than we might think in movies, TV show, different entertainment. That from the surface, a movie or TV show looks harmless because it's promoted in such a way that that makes it look harmless, but it's not. What's under the surface, when you actually watch it, when you actually get into it, it's nothing like how they promote it. So, sir, if you're watching this, which you're probably not, you have no argumentation. You have no argument for this. This is also not a cry wolf situation. He assumes I didn't see the apology by Netflix. I did. Doesn't change anything. I responded by telling him that there's no dancing around this. I pointed out the sexualization of children, and he says again, that's literally what the point of this movie. That's the only thing you could do with it. It's why no one has a movie about how it's fun to be a prostitute. That's what he said. There are plenty of documentaries about the benefits of sex workers, as they call them. People praise prostitution all the time. There are movements in the United States trying to overturn the laws that make prostitution illegal. There are a lot of people who make content about how it's fun to be a prostitute. Pornography itself promotes that. Free sex, free love, all this kind of stuff. That all promotes how fun it is or could be to be a prostitute. I, for one, seem to be one of the few people left who still believes that selling your body for sex should be against the law. It's degrading to women. It's dangerous. The modern feminist movement is one of the big ones behind this whole sex workers should be legal. Yet it's totally going against the things that they claim that they stand for. It degrades women. It does not empower women. It does not make women strong. It degrades them. I responded to him by posting the question that I already posed. To fight over sexualization of children, they make a movie that over sexualizes children. How does that make sense? In the description, it also calls this child to rebel against her parents' conservative values and traditions. That's a big thing, too, from the left. It may not seem like a big thing, but it is. To be conservative today is to be a bigot. To be conservative today is to be intolerant. It's to keep people controlled and deny who they truly are. And if you want to get more people on your side, you have to brainwash them from an early age. Because if they grow up, um, they're going to see how deplorable and stupid the left truly is and how these arguments are. This is why the left is pushing for sex education taught in schools that teach children from as early as kindergarten what sex is. This is why we have so many of these coming-of-age movies and TV shows. This is why the left promotes the transitioning of children as young as 3 years old to take hormone blockers so that they can feel the gender that they feel like they are. You have to brainwash children as early in their life as you can so that they can't think for themselves later. That's what our culture is doing. And when you shine a negative light on conservative values, especially Christian values, but not even Christian values, but just conservative values at a young age, the kids are more likely going to fall into your corner. And that's what this movie is doing. I brought up social media earlier. Look at social media. The things that young kids and teenagers are posting on these social media platforms. Okay, I grew up, I did community theater for 15 years. Loved it, had a great time. But some of the most depraved people are in theater. The arts draw in this kind of group. But I made friends doing shows, followed each other on social media, and really today with all this going on has really caused me to be very, very careful and very, very discerning about who I friend on Facebook and follow on Instagram or whatever it might be, because of the stuff that gets posted. There's a girl who I've known for a number of years from theater who is still in middle school, and I had to block her on Instagram because of the posts that she was making. Posting herself in these in very provocative poses and in outfits that leave absolutely nothing to anybody's imagination. And you look at the number of likes that she's getting on it. She's got thousands and thousands of likes and over 1,000 followers on Instagram, and she's 14, 15 years old. And she is putting her body on display. She does professional modeling that does this kind of stuff. Her parents know. Her parents know about it. Her mom follows her on Instagram. And that's concerning. That's scary. But I've had to block so many people on Instagram and Facebook and all of that because of this kind of stuff. And that's what Instagram is turning into. That's Snapchat is incredibly dangerous. TikTok was just a place after a while. It sure, there was some funny stuff that might have been posted on TikTok, but so many people would use TikTok to dress in skimpy outfits, lip sync to stupid songs, and do sexual dances to try and get likes. That's, you go on Instagram, you click the search button, and just all this stuff just kind of shows up, and it's horrible. And it caused me to kind of think, should I even have an Instagram? Should I even have this kind of stuff? Because I don't want to see it. But it just makes me sad that this is a reality, and it's being promoted. I reported several Instagram accounts of this nature, including this one particular girl. And I got a response almost immediately by Instagram saying this does not break our community standards. So Instagram is allowing this as well. Parents, you need to know what kind of social media your kids are on. You need to know it. You need to know what they're posting. You need to know who they're hanging out with. I know there are people that will come against this and say that's being too overbearing. That's protecting your child. There's a organization called Bark that makes fake profiles of teenage girls or young preteen girls or whatever, and puts them on social media, and reports the kinds of stuff that these men send to girls as young as 9. I think they made a 9-year-old, and some of the stuff that was being sent to these girls was horrible. And they try and catch these people. They try and set up these meets where they go and actually meet the people and then work with law enforcement to arrest them. But watch some of those things. Parents, educate yourselves. Educate yourselves on social media. Just do it. Protect your children. Anyway, back to this. He responded with probably... It's not even helping his defense, but he said, no one is teaching these kids how to twerk. At least here he calls them kids. So, thumbs up on that. They are learning it themselves. Sir, that's not better. And maybe in the movie the characters are learning it themselves, but how do you think they got it filmed? How do you think when they came on set for the first couple rehearsals for this, how do you think they learned how to twerk? And if they already knew how to twerk at that point, that's concerning, but they probably had a dance instructor. Do you think it possible that the director of the movie or the dance instructor had to teach them how to twerk? Had to teach them how to do these kinds of things? Again, you have no argument, sir. None. He then starts to fall into the classic I have no argument by pandering to the social justice garbage, that it's all okay because it was directed by a woman. That makes it okay. Because women can't be predators, right? Only men. When you have a child who is jumping on to the social justice train, child drag queens, children in gender transitions, children in explicit modeling, drag queen story hours at the library. This is all part of that grooming. It's all about making this stuff normal in culture. 9 times out of 10, the one who is behind it is the mother. She's the one promoting it. She's the one encouraging it. There's a story right now where a mother is transitioning her child and the father is fighting it. He's been fighting it for a while. Took it to court. And I feel for this man. My heart breaks for this man. That our system is so corrupt and so broken that this man has to go to court to keep his wife, his ex-wife, from mutilating their child. And I think the last report I saw that he lost the case. And his ex-wife is going to continue to transition their child. Against his will, against his wishes. This is grooming. This is horrible. It breaks my heart, but this is the culture that we're living in. It's vile, it's evil, and it's only going to get worse. This is the more this gets pushed in the culture, the more people are going to be numb to it, and it's just going to become mainstream after a while. But and the worst part is there are people who call themselves Christians who support this kind of stuff. You know, it's that whole judge not thing, that who am I to say what's right and wrong? I leave that to God. Well, God tells us what is right and wrong. He gave us his revelation. He gave us his Bible. But Christians don't read the Bible anymore. We have a new Bible devotional that came out called the Gen Z, the Word According to Gen Z, and that's a whole different conversation. And there's a post on Facebook about that where a local youth pastor was praising it, and just the comments that were coming from people were praising it, and they viewed it as silly and really a great way to get the next generation to start reading the Bible. No, it's not. It's making fun of the Bible. It's disrespecting the Bible. It is spitting in the face of God and his revelation. That's what it is. And that's a story for another time, but we do know what's right and wrong. And Christians, if you call yourself a Christian, you cannot support this kind of stuff. You can't. The Holy Spirit does not live within a person and allow them to continue promoting, encouraging, and partaking in this kind of vile and evil stuff that's going on. But I'm going to finish this up and talk a little bit about Romans 1 in just a moment. But he said that if they, the girls, this is the man I was having a conversation on Facebook with, he said if they, the girls, had any problem with what they were doing, they were in safe hands. Now, this just made me sick, because if we know anything about the film industry, is that a person, specifically girls, women, young, old, whatever, are not safe. That has just blown up. Harvey Weinstein. Girls are not safe in the film industry. You put these girls on the screen, their faces and their bodies on display, twerking, and you are putting them in danger. They are being degraded and lusted after by perverted, vile, and evil people, and it's being celebrated and defended. Sir, you are a part of this. Just by supporting it, by defending it, you are a part of the problem. One of the people who liked one of this man's comments is someone with a young daughter. She is not quite the age of these girls in the movie, but she will be one day. And I wonder how he would feel if someone looked at his daughter in the way that people are looking at these children. Now, this guy, I know him. I know him from theater. He's a good guy. He is. He's a good guy, and he's a good father. He's a great father. And I have no doubt that he would be the first to knock somebody dead if they came after his daughter the way people are coming after these girls. And looking at them like they're a piece of meat. But yet he liked one of the comments that this man I was having a conversation with. He was not arguing against it. And I really hope, the man who I was dialoguing with on Facebook, I really hope that you have a daughter one day. I really do. Because that might get you to change your view on this. When you look at your daughter, and you take that charge, you take that responsibility as her protector, as her guardian, as her father, and I have no doubt, sir, that you would be this, that you would be her protector, that you would be, that you would take that role seriously. I have no doubt of that. But part of protecting your daughter is protecting her from things like this, and that means you need to set that example for her. And if you do have children one day, I pray that you see that. I pray that you do. Anyway, he moves to probably the biggest strawman argument, and quite honestly, the dumbest argument. That proves he either doesn't have an argument, or he truly believes that what he's saying makes sense, and it doesn't. And he said this: would you say that we shouldn't make movies about the Holocaust because we shouldn't show people getting slaughtered in many different ways? He now moves to putting images of children in little clothing and moving in sexual ways to the Holocaust. I don't even know why I have to explain how this is not even close to comparable. A scene of people where they are put in a gas chamber, as hard as it may be to watch, it is clear that they are not actually being gassed. They are not actually being killed. The actors are not dying. They are acting. They are showing us how horrible things were. They are stirring emotions that should be stirred in us so that it won't happen again. In a movie that exploits children in sexual ways, when they are twerking, they are actually twerking. That's not just acting. That's not the same thing as a horrible scene about the death of somebody. This is a young girl doing sexual movements. When they are in these revealing sexual outfits, they are actually in these outfits, and their bodies are on display for everyone to see. The idea of this stirs anger and disgust in normal people. But people like me are not going to see this movie. Why? Because we don't want the movie to come out in the first place because of how disgusting it is. But the people who go see this movie, the emotions that are going to be stirred in the specifically male men, the men who go see this, are not the same as the emotions and feelings that will be stirred when you see something like Schindler's List. It's not even close. One is historical and educational. One is perverted and grooms children to be sexualized. They are not the same thing. And you should be ashamed of yourself for even suggesting it. You should. Finally, he knows I'm a Christian, so he brings Jesus into it. And I don't know if he considers himself a Christian or not. I never really got that from him, but who knows? He's not, but who knows if he considers himself to be. But he said that we have a lot of movies on the death of Jesus, but shouldn't we see movies on why Jesus had to die? Again, this is grasping at nothing. This is jumping out of a parachute wearing a backpack, believing it's a parachute. We do not need to watch a movie about sexualized children to understand why it's wrong. Keep saying that. We don't need movies or music or television or any kind of media to show us why Christ had to die. We just need to look around us. We need to look inside of us to know that. The first thing that we should come to consideration when it comes to why did Christ have to die is looking at ourselves, our own sinful desires, our own sinful actions, our sin that we are inclined to. That's why Christ had to die. We shouldn't have to see it. You don't watch porn to know that lust is bad. You don't watch porn to understand why Jesus said to look at a woman with lust is to commit adultery with her in your heart. We are living Romans 1 right now. America. America is under God's judgment. The world is under God's judgment, and I truly believe that. But if you don't believe me, Romans 1. Let's get there for a moment. I want to read this. It starts this. In verse 18, it says this, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man, and birds and animals and creeping things. Therefore, God gave them up to the lusts of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason God gave them up," there's that line again, "gave them up to dishonorable passions for their women, exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature, and the men likewise gave up natural relations with women, and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men, and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them." God has removed his hand from us. And it's been a long time coming. And sir, I pray for you. I truly, truly do. I pray that you repent and turn to Christ. Because this was just a mess, and it was very concerning, and it really showed the state of culture today. and how they view things. You gave all the classic arguments that people who defend this kind of stuff give. It's the state of our world right now. And no political power can change it. No elected official, no law passed can make anything right. The only hope anybody has is found in Christ. That's it. Without him, there is no hope. Our nation needs to turn back to God. But we have done such a good job in even just the last 60 years of pushing God out. We don't want anything to do with him anymore. You know, one of my heroes of the faith, Pastor John MacArthur, in this whole lockdown, churches can't gather, churches can't meet, all that good stuff. Grace Community Church in California, in Southern California, they're having full service. No masks, no social distancing, singing loud, preaching God's word, proclaiming the gospel faithfully. And he has been threatened with arrest, tens of thousands of dollars in fines. The world hates God. The world hates Christ. The world hates Christians. Okay? Because our message goes against what the world wants, what the world is trying to put in. Our message goes against it. And the world hates that. And the world will try and take and silence those voices who oppose. I was having a conversation, well, not really a conversation, it was kind of a passing quip with somebody. And I brought up the whole MacArthur thing and gathering and all that. And I made mention that, persecution is coming. It's here for some people. That persecution of Christians is here. It is happening now. And she laughed and said, I don't buy it. She says, I lived in Africa. I lived in places where Christians were really being persecuted. So I don't buy it that Christians are being persecuted here in the West. Any Christian who is put in jail, loses their business, loses financial stability, gets killed, whatever, any Christian that kind of stuff happens to is being persecuted if it happens because of their faith. If they're being singled out because of their faith. Persecution does not determine, it's not determined by what you think persecution is. Christians are being persecuted all over the world, and that includes the United States, that includes the West. And this woman, she laughed, and she kept saying, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Well, I'm sure that pastors who are in jail right now for their faith would like to say a few words to you, ma'am. But this is the thinking of people today. That unless you're being crucified upside down or dunked in boiling oil, you're not being persecuted. And that's just not true. Now, granted, this woman, her son just graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary. He is a openly gay drag star, and he wants to be a pastor. If that gives any kind of indication of how this family sees Christianity, how this family sees faith, the Christian faith, there's nothing off limits to them. And that's the modern church today. That's the modern Christian thinking today. And it's not Christian. It's not Christian at all. And Christ needs to come back. Christ needs to come back very, very soon. But until then, Christians, stand strong. Pray for your leaders. Pray for your friends. Pray for your enemies. Pray for your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Pray for those who come against you. Be Christ to people who don't know him and don't want to know him. Be Christ to them. Anyway, that is that for today. Yeah, this was anyway, I'm just gonna leave it there. So, thank you so much for those of you who have tuned in to the 5 Point Podcast. If you enjoyed this, if you thought this was beneficial, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Doesn't matter. But thank you again for tuning in. I'm sure I will see you very soon as the world continues to plummet even further into sin. So, God bless you all, and stay safe and stay true.